Welcome to the webinar, How to Protect from Data Loss, Streamline Backups, and Create New Revenue Streams. Before we begin, let's review some housekeeping items. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into the GoToWebinar control panel. We will try to answer all questions at the end of the webinar during the Q&A portion. Okay, so let's get started. I'd like to kick off the webinar by introducing our speakers. First, we have Ben Puzzuoli, the Director of Sales from Data Deposit Box. Hello, Ben.
Hey, how you doing, Jeff?
Good, thanks for joining. Second,
no problem, thank you.
We have Adrian Herrera, the VP of Marketing at Caringo.
Hi, How are you, Jeff?
Good
morning, and good afternoon, I guess, and good evening to some of you.
Okay, so we'll start with Adrian. He'll run through the agenda today.
So thanks, Jeff. This is our high-level agenda, what we're going to cover today. First, Ben is going to go over a few, some high-level information on Data Deposit Box and the solutions that they offer. Then I'll go over Caringo Swarm and how we provide bulletproof scale under Data Deposit Box's backup solutions. Then we'll go over and talk about how Data Deposit actually uses Caringo Swarm. They're both a customer of ours and a partner of ours, and we'll go into detail on the benefits that they get from our features, from our unique technical features, and then the actual quantitative business benefits that they got on the back end. And then we'll open it up for QA. And with that, Ben, I'll go ahead and hand the presentation off to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Adrian. Hello, everybody. So just really quickly, again, Ben Puzzuoli, Director of Sales and Marketing for Data Deposit Box. I've been doing backup for a very, very long time. So I wanted to give you a little quick overview of Data Deposit Box. Most people will say, not another backup company. And when people say that to me, I usually say, we're not another backup company, we're the backup company. And why I say that is that we were founded in 2002, so 13 years now, with the simple idea that all devices needed backup. So our target market has always been and will always be the small and medium-sized business market. So I'm dated here again, doing this for almost 15 years. When we first started, the term cloud wasn't even yet coined. We used to call it offsite backup or remote backup. Back then, we didn't really have competitors, or many of them, and we pretty much competed with no backup, tape backups, or local-only backups. So now, enough about the history. I want to talk a little bit about current day. Data Deposit Box currently serves over 200,000 accounts, manages petabytes of data, which is all more efficiently stored, thank you to Caringo. And now, let's move on to the next slide, please, Adrian. So we approach the backup problem a little differently. And when I say, and why I call it a problem is because everyone has this problem. Each and every single day, we are creating 2.5 quintillion bytes of data, which means that 90% of the data in the entire world has been created in the last 2 years. So the growth is exponential, right? And it's, difficulty backing it up, managing it, etc. So to efficiently back up this data, we offer, our customers, partners, 5 different ways to attack the problem. So what you'll see on the screen here is that you'll see the PC, Mac, server, iOS, and Android. So what these represent are 5 different backup client or agents. Each will have unique features and functionality from our patented continuous data protection process, which is also known as CDP, all the way to hybrid backups, VMware backups, Hyper-V, and entire network backups. We also include file backups, Exchange, SQL, etc. So can you just change slides now again, Adrian? Thanks. Perfect. So just to get a little more granular in what we offer, right? I already mentioned files, so we can natively back up, files from your local machine, networks, MS Exchange, MS SQL, SharePoint, Hyper-V, VMware, as well as offering mobile backups. So I will not show all the backup clients within this webinar, but I will focus on the Data Deposit Box backup or service client in a few minutes on the live demo. Okay. So again, we're going to move on to the next slide. Yep. And probably the most important slide. How can you make money? So we offer multiple different levels of partnership that will fit the needs of business of all sizes. Our initial partnership level provides you, the reseller, a way to start reselling a robust cloud backup solution, really without any minimum commitment or risk. This means you can start selling right away and get a monthly commission paid to you, straight to you, for the life of your customer. So if the customer stays with us for 10 years, you'd get paid for 10 years. We also offer partners 100% white label branding. So a lot of backup vendors will say that they offer 100% white label branding. We truly offer that. So everything from logos, colors, EXE names, all the way down to even the end user license agreement would be branded as you. Okay. We also give you complete control over customer billing. So you can control your own prices. You can, and as well, or charge your customers on your own by integrating into our powerful and robust billing engine. Now, as I already mentioned, we will also provide you a recurring commission forever. So the minimum level is 20%, and again, for the life of your customer. Now, for the larger partners or the more technical partners, we also offer a mature RESTful API that allows you to tie in our billing into website, credit card, or accounting systems. And lastly, but not, lastly, you decide where to host. So we are focusing on the enabler market. So we are going more and more channel, and eventually it will be 100% channel. So we allow you to either host our software and backend in your data center or in one of our data centers. Okay. So with further ado, I'm going to jump right into the demo. So if you guys can just make me presenter. Perfect. Okay. So everybody sees my screen. So what you're seeing here is the data deposit box backup for service client. Okay, again, as I mentioned, we have a PC client, a Mac client, as well as mobile apps, which I'm not going to really get into. But let's go right ahead and create a backup set. We've spent a lot of time and money to make this very simple to set up, very easy to use, and just make sure it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through setting up a file backup. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give it a unique name. And I'm quite literally going to give it a unique name here. So from here, as I mentioned in my past slides, we can select file backup, SQL backups, Exchange, VMware, SharePoint, and Hyper-V. Okay, so let's go ahead and select file backup. And then so from here, we can select, like most backup vendors, right? We can select files and folders from any of our drives, right? We can also back up with one click the system state and active directory of the machine. On top of this, and one of our differentiators is that we can also agentlessly protect your network. So I've installed this backup agent or client on, on my demo machine here. And through the Windows network, I'm able to see my entire network of machines here. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on a machine that I have access to. So I'm going to ask to connect, and I'll say yes. I've authenticated with username and password. Click Save and Connect. Connected. So now, just like on the local machine here, right, I'm able to back up all the files and folders, system state active directory of this machine as well. Okay. Now, we also have tons of granular options, which I probably won't show you guys, but one of the major ones is the ability to include or exclude. So for example, let's say we wanted to back up the entire C drive, and we knew that the C drive contained a lot of movies, which we don't necessarily want to move offsite. So what we could do is we could back up all files except those matching a template. What we do then is we select the movie template and click Add. So now what the software will do is it will automatically back up the entire C drive, excluding the movie files. You can also do the reverse and only back up movie files or Excel files or Office documents, for example. So we're going to go ahead and click Next. And a very important screen here. So this kind of shows you the destinations on where you could store your backups. So number one is cloud storage only. So what this will do is it will take the data we've selected and move it to one of our data centers. Okay, cloud backup really, no one really wants to pay for it, right? But what it is insurance, exactly like insurance. No one wants to pay for car insurance, but it's there when you need it, right? So it's the exact same purpose here. So if you, in case of a disaster, you recover from the cloud. The second option is our hybrid option, right? So this will keep local copies as well as cloud copies. Now, the nice thing about, well, a few nice things about our local drive backup option. So number one, we don't charge you for local storage. So if you want to keep, 10 times local amount of data that you do in the cloud, you would not be charged for that data. Secondly, you don't necessarily need to keep the local drive data on this machine where the backup client is. So you can choose a UNC location, for example, on the network and store the data there. Thirdly is the local drive only. So this became very popular a few years ago when cloud backup prices were more expensive. So what this allowed people to do is set up multiple schedules, keeping certain data only locally, and then setting up secondary backup schedules to keep the more critical stuff remotely or in the cloud. And lastly, this is our seed option. So what happens is let's say you're backing up 500 gigs, a terabyte of data. It will take some time to move that over the internet. What we do is we allow you to put in a USB drive. The software will automatically back up to that device, and then you'd actually physically ship it to us. From there, our data center team would import it for you, and the backup client would automatically convert to a cloud storage only job. And then from there, only target the differences. So after the initial backup of any application we back up or files we back up, we will only protect what's changed. Okay, so let's go ahead and select the cloud storage and click next. So what I used to use this screen is to explain our encryption. So at no point in time is your data not encrypted. Okay, so we use Blowfish 448-bit encryption. Data is encrypted before it leaves this machine, in flight, which is over the internet, and at rest. So rest being when it sits in one of our data centers, it is never, unencrypted. So let's go ahead and click next. So this is the secondary email notification. So just a side note, all of our backup clients and apps will automatically alert you if we don't hear in from your backup client at a scheduled backup time, or during a set of maximum days. So if using the PC and Mac client, for example, if they run on a continuous data protection process that we've patented and owned, if we haven't heard from them in default 5 days, you would get alerted from the back end. Okay, you can change that. This allows you to add secondary email, which would then actually send you a backup report to your email. Just show you an example here of a backup report. Okay. Go here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click next here. Now this is the backup report is taking a couple minutes. It must be a really big one, or my computer's really slow. So what we're going to move to now is the schedule screen. Okay, so let's use a business that has a retention policy of requiring to keep 14 daily copies and 12 monthly copies. So what we do here is we select daily, set the start time, the date, and then change generation to keep 14. So right now we are going to keep 14 copies of that data. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, we also need to keep monthly copies. We want to keep 12 monthly copies. So again, we set the start time. And what I usually suggest is putting the first day of the next month. So this will be July 1st. And instead of keeping 14 copies, we're going to keep 12. Okay. So effectively, we're keeping 14 daily copies and 12 monthly copies. Now, a common question that comes up here is that when at the end of the year you will be effectively keeping 26 copies of this data with us. Now, the common question is do I get charged 26 times? And the answer is no. So what we do is that we will charge you for the base. So let's keep the simple example of backing up 1 gigabyte of data. If that 1 gigabyte of data never changes over that entire year, even though we are keeping 26 full restore points, we will only charge you for that 1 gig. Okay. So I'm going to exit out of here, and the report did finally pull up. It was really big, that's why. But it'll give you all the detail of how long it's run, how much has been backed up, how much has been transferred, etc. Okay. Now, Really quickly, I'm going to also just show you, for example, a VMware backup. These are just as easy to set up. And the nice thing is I only have to show you a couple of the screens, because after these 2 or 3 initial screens, all the other screens are the same. Okay, so we select VMware Backup. Nice thing about the software as well is that you don't necessarily need to install the backup agents on the VMware host or the Exchange host or the SQL host. What happens is that it'll automatically discover over your network any of the Exchange or SQLs or VMs that you have running. So for example, in this case, I select this, I can pick up all the guests. So in this case, the Windows XP guest. Now, we also have is the ability to auto-discover VMware backups at backup time. This saves the administrator some time from having to go back and edit backup jobs. So as we add guests, they'll be automatically backed up. So we go ahead and click next. And then from here, quite literally, it's the same screen. Okay. So before I pass this back on to Adrian, I'm just going to really quickly show you guys our web portal. I'm going to close this. So this is the My Data portal. Now we fully support, like I said, partners, MSPs, ISPs, etc. So how I have this set up right now is as a reseller account. So any end user or a reseller will come in here, and this is their dashboard. So you'll see the active machines, inactive machines, invoice amounts. You'll get graphs of your data. You'll also get reseller overview statistics if you're a reseller, if you're permissioned as a reseller. Now, a very helpful feature for resellers are heat map. So I'm going to go ahead and click here. Now, we can get as granular as you want, right? You can show servers or not. You can select specific customers or not, or all of them. And what we will do is we will graphically display your backed up machines. So yellow signifies there's a warning. So a warning could be, it's missed a file was locked, the machine wasn't on during backup, etc. Green's everything good, and red means the backup's not running or there's some kind of major error. What you might also notice here is that we're also picking up iPhones, Android, servers, PCs, etc. So anything that you back up, all the devices we support will be displayed here. By clicking into it, we can also get into more granular detail about the machine, troubleshooting reports, etc. Okay. Show you another few of the functions. We can also restore from this portal as well as share files. Now, one thing I did want to highlight is kind of our solution to the crypto virus. So I don't know if everyone's familiar with the crypto virus, so I'll give them a very quick overview. The crypto virus is also known as a ransomware virus. The basic idea is that it takes over your machine, encrypts it all, and you basically get an email or a link on the screen saying, pay us $500, or basically you're not unencrypting your data. So let's use the use case where my machine support PC. I backed up the entire, I backed up folders in the C drive, and I know that I was affected with the virus on, let's say, June 9th. Okay. So what I will do is I'll come here into my data portal, I'll select all my files, and I will select June 8th. And then I'll click download selected. What will happen is that the system will automatically pull all the data as it was either on June 8th or a backup before the latest backup before June 8th and provide you a cart. Now a cart is a zip file which is much quicker to download, containing all your files. Okay. And again, like I said, we have a lot of granularity here. We could set up accounts by department. You could set billing. You could set storage amounts. You can manage your customers, cancel, add, suspend accounts, and also report. So with that, that's the quick overview of the data deposit box solution, and I'm going to pass it on to Adrian from Caringo.
All right. Just wait a second till I get the screen back. Okay. There we go. Seeing my screen okay? I'll take silence as a yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. All right. Here we go. So, Ben just walked you through a high-level overview of the backup solutions DDB provides. And when he said it was a high level, it truly was a high level. They have a lot of more functionality that he didn't walk you through. Again, this webinar was meant to be just a high-level overview, so if you do want a deep dive, I encourage you ping Ben after the webinar, and he can really give you a deep dive. I think he could spend probably half a day to a day just going over the features and functions that they have. Now I'm going to go over why Caringo Swarm is the ideal target to store and continuously protect all the data coming from these great solutions that Ben just showed. So Swarm is already the storage infrastructure behind DDB's hosted solution. And as he mentioned, we help them scale to hundreds of thousands of users and petabytes of information across multiple sites. As he also mentioned, you can also use a DDB and Swarm within your own data center. So they do have very flexible deployment options, whether you're using their hosted solution or whether it's within their own data center. So at Caringo, our focus is really on bulletproof scale. And when you're dealing with backups, it isn't good enough to just scale well. You need to make sure that you can get that data back. From a service provider perspective, you need to make sure you can support a rapid increase in subscribers. So, if you do go out and secure a large OEM deal, or if you run a promotion, you need to make sure that you're able to support all of the subscribers that come to you. And you may not know, it's pretty hard to predict that kind of traffic. So you need infrastructure behind it that's able to support that kind of just-in-time scale. You also need to make sure that if something goes wrong, your service is going to stay up and that data integrity is prioritized. And that's exactly what we focus on here at Caringo. So it all starts with all-inclusive software. So Swarm boots from bare metal on your choice of standard hardware and your choice of drives. You don't need to mess with installing an operating system and patching or managing different drives for software and data and metadata. It truly is just a boot from bare metal, and the capacity and performance resources are automatically added to the cluster. All software runs from RAM, leaving 98% of the drive capacity for data. So there is no file system, so performance is excellent with any size of files, small or large. This is really important in backup use cases because files are often small. Next, we have our Swarm architecture. It really works in the same way as a Swarm does in real life. It uses simple rules to manage a very complex system. So all nodes do the same thing, and processes actually get faster as a cluster grows. So for example, when data is stored, it's evenly distributed across the entire cluster. In the case of an issue, all nodes with a piece of that data participate in recovery, so it happens incredibly fast. In fact, we focus on fast volume recovery. And when an issue does happen, we only repair the issue, the issues that are there, whether it's with a particular object, whether it's with a particular volume, or whether it's even with a particular server node. So we get pretty granular in the way that we protect information, continuously protect data. So Swarm architecture also eliminates single points of failure. So any node can take a request, and that does become very important. You're not going through a management node or controller node. When you're dealing with a large storage solution, continuous optimization of infrastructure is extremely important to maintain performance. So to achieve this, we encapsulate data with metadata, enabling the unlocking of data from a specific location. So we're not going to a metadata database where there's a pointer, and a metadata database is just something else that you need to manage an additional single point of failure. So when we store the metadata with object itself, we're able to continuously move data around to make optimal use of resources and reduce architectural issues like disk fragmentation that are common in other solutions in use cases where there's a high delete rate, like backups. In backups, there is a high delete rate, but the way that we store metadata with the data itself and we continuously optimize, you don't have some of the disk fragmentation issues that you do with other storage solutions. And as I mentioned, this does eliminate a major single point of failure in a metadata database. It's not only a single point of failure, databases become brittle with size. They become difficult to manage at scale. And you also need specialized resources to manage databases. With us, you really just need IT resources with very general skills, and they're able to support multiple petabytes on their own. Swarm also offers patent-pending technology that allows the storing of replicated and erasure-coded objects all on the same nodes. So in object storage, there's two ways to protect data. There's replication, which is essentially just making another copy of the information, and there's erasure coding, which can be viewed as a file level or object level RAID. So you break that file or object up into multiple segments, and each segment has parity information. Now, with Swarm, you don't need to specify separate infrastructure for each protection method. And you can seamlessly shift from one method to the other. And we'll show you how DDB is using this on the next slide. It's all policy-based and automated. And you know there's some real value there since it is all automated. You basically set the policies, and it's controlled throughout the entire life of the content. You know, now this isn't an exhaustive list of the unique features that Swarm has, but these approaches and methods are really the foundation to providing you bulletproof scale. If you want a deeper dive, just go ahead and ping me after the webinar, and we can give you a deeper dive. But you know, let's take a look at how DDB is using Swarm for their hosted solution. So when DDB came to us, they had about 60,000 subscribers. And they had a internally developed solution that was based on JBOD, and they had just closed a very large OEM deal, and they knew that subscriptions were going to increase rapidly. Now, when I say there was a significant manual management, you know, they were spending a lot of time just managing where all the data was being stored. And they knew that they had to get to the over 100,000, 200,000 subscriber level. That's when they started doing research on storage solutions that can help them get there, and they found us at Caringo. Their forecasted storage was around 3.2 terabytes per user, but what actually ended up happening was people were storing more. It was actually closer to 20 terabytes per user. And the large OEM deal that they closed ended up being very successful. So they rapidly scaled. So you know, we were able to come in and help them shatter barriers to growth because of some of the architectural features and unique approaches that I showed you on the previous slide. So the solution that they put in place was, and this was about 6 months ago, so it's a little different, but they have over 600 terabytes per site on 10 Dell PowerEdge servers with JBODs attached. And they're using our continuous data protection, or elastic content protection as we call it, to store replicas of files under 5 megabytes. And then they use a specific erasure coding scheme for files over 5 megabytes. And this is fully automated. The system just takes care of it. When a user uploads a file, Swarm takes a look at the size and picks the appropriate protection method. The administrators at Data Deposit Box don't have to worry about anything from a data protection perspective. Now, Data Deposit Box is scaling at around 10,000 trial users, each with over 20 terabytes per month. So that's the solution. As far as the business benefits that they were able to get from Swarm, so the first one is reducing database bloat. So they no longer needed to track where content is stored. As I demonstrated in the previous slide, since we store metadata with the data, we handle all the management and all the addressing and the location of the information within the entire cluster. We're continuously optimizing. So they didn't have to do that from their database perspective. We also took them from 28 racks all the way down to 5 racks. That's an 82% reduction in footprint. All of this resulted in an OpEx reduction of $50,000 US per month. So very significant savings, and it was all enabled by our unique approach to object storage, our file systemless approach, our Swarm architecture, and our continuous data protection, elastic content protection. And in addition, because of the way that we scale, they can quickly add additional resources, and capacity and performance can be deployed under an hour. So we do let them, if they're out and get another great OEM deal, we can definitely help them scale with the technology and functionality that we provide. So that covers the DDB use case and very high-level Swarm overview. And Jeff, I think I'll pass it to you to start managing questions.